Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our August 24th City Council meeting. If we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have a few public hearings this evening. The first public hearing is the Public Lands Committee public hearing regarding the renaming of Chamber of Commerce / Ralph Eberly Park. Councilman Donovan.
Thank you, Chairman Quagliani. Time is 6:44. The Public Lands Committee public hearing renaming Chamber of Commerce / Ralph Eberly Park. The public session is now open. Do we have anyone speaker? Anybody send anything in, Stacy?
No, we don't have any communications.
Okay, and with that, public hearing is now closed.
Okay, just a note for the record, the Public Lands Committee is Chairman Donovan, members Galignano, Finelli, Conlon, and O'Connor, and they had a quorum. Next public hearing is the Charter Revision Committee public hearing, an ordinance amending Chapter 6, Veterans Advisory Committee. Councilwoman Hamilton.
Good evening. Charter Revision Committee public hearing, an ordinance amending Chapter 6 Veterans Advisory Committee. On my committee is Councilwoman Hosky, Councilman Gagliano, Massaro, and Councilman Cohen. We have no public comment. So now, Charter Revision Committee hearing is closed.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hamilton. We will pause till 6:50 so the Finance Committee public hearing will take place at 6:50. Okay, it's 6:50 PM. Finance Committee public hearing and ordinance amending So it really is 6:50 PM legislative matters public hearing. An ordinance amending Chapter 81 Building Department fees. Councilman Galignano. I'm not hearing you, Councilman Galignano. Does anybody else hear Councilman Galignano? No. You don't appear to be muted on my screen. Going to make a game day move here, Councilman Galignano, if you don't mind. I could have Councilman Bruno conduct a public hearing for 6:50 legislative matters public hearing and ordinance amending Chapter 81 of the Building Department fees.
All right, Mr. Chairman, what, you want me to take over on that one?
Yeah, I just call the committee to order, if you would, Councilman Bruno, and see if anybody has any comments. And I believe there are no comments for this. So you just open the committee and then close the committee.
Okay, can I call that committee to order?
Yeah, just whoever the people are in the committee, if you could read them and then the business that you're conducting. All right. Seems like our committee's having some technical issues. Councilwoman Finale.
Okay, so the time is 6:54. And this is the public hearing on the Legislative Committee, which includes, where are we? Councilman Galignano, Councilman Bruno, Councilwoman Johnston, Councilwoman Finelli, and Councilman Cohen. And I don't believe we have any public comments, so the committee is now closed.
Thank you, Councilwoman Finale. And all with a minute to spare.
Hi, the time, can I go or no? 6:55.
Want me- oh,
Go ahead.
sorry. Okay, so the time is now 6:55. Your Finance Committee public hearing. In attendance is Councilman Massaro, Councilman Bruno, Councilman Cohen, and Councilwoman Hamilton, and myself, Bridget Hosky, acting as chair. It is a hearing on an ordinance authorizing the issuance of $6,313,100 bonds plus additional financing costs of the city to meet certain 2019, 2020, and 2020-21 capital budget appropriations and pending the issuance thereof, the making of the temporary borrowings for such purpose. I believe we do have one public comment. If you could read that for me, Stacy.
Sure, Chairman Hosty. We do have one public comment for this public hearing, and my name is Mark DeGennaro, and I live at 71 Ames Drive. I want to voice my concern over the proposal to issue over $6 million in bonds. Because the public does not have access to all of the information and descriptions from the council are vague and incomplete, I have to read between the lines. From what the finance director indicated at the last meeting, the bonds will pay for some vehicles, paving, and other short-term improvements. It also seems that the bonds will reimburse the city for capital improvements that have already happened and have been paid for. Why are we bonding for something that is already paid for? Is it just to pad our books at the expense of later years? If these things would last 20 years, maybe it would make sense, but most of the improvements have a life use of only several years, such as the vehicles and paving. But under this proposal, the taxpayers will be paying for these things over the next 20 years. Would you finance a car long after you know it would be junked, knowing that you would have to continue paying the bill? This is the type of the thing that the MARB has meant when it says that West Haven needs to change the way it does business. They call it systemic changes. It's unconscionable to consider continuing down the same path. The taxpayers have been promised for many years that our bond payments, which are now over 10% of our budget, would drastically drop after this current fiscal year. Mayor Rossi's original 5-year plan to the MARB started off saying that our payments of $18 million per year would drop to $4 million. That could result in nearly $5 million decrease in our taxes, but we are now being told that our debt payment will soon come close to $20 million per year. How does that happen in just a couple of years? With that in mind, think carefully about whether this bonding ordinance is really in our best interests. And that is all we have for public comment tonight.
And your Finance Committee public hearing is closed at 6:58. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hosky. We'll recess until 7 p.m. Okay, it is now 7 o'clock, and we will enter into our public comment session. I'll turn this over to our clerk, Stacy, as I believe she has some comments to be read into the record.
Okay, we do have several letters to be read into the record. We have, our first one is from Brandon Patterson, Youth and Community Organizer of West Haven, Connecticut. Attention City Council. The organizers of the recent peaceful protests, including yesterday's, respectfully request permission and the city manpower to assist with the installation of a semi-permanent public mural as another creative expression in support of racial equity. We have researched other cities' choices in this regard. See attached presentation, which I don't have attached. It was probably just in the email. Ours will be unique in that it will incorporate imaginary, considered emblem of our city fused with visuals indicative of West Haven's vibrant Black community. We are cognizant of this moment in our history and seek to inspire others to garner a greater appreciation for the pivotal contribution Black residents continue to provide our city. We recognize this core constituency has neither has been empowered nor celebrated enough in the past, and seek to motivate others to be better. Artists have been identified to lead the design team. They are available through August to implement the mural, with early September for finishing touches. We have secured funding for paint and related supplies from Gavin Watson, formerly of Watson Inc. in West Haven. Gavin is now president of Conscious Capitalism Connecticut chapter and also sponsored the chalk drawing portion of yesterday's arts-based protest. We also have a drone camera ready to document the installation process and the finished result. The goal is to unify West Haven around a strong public statement regarding our values as an inclusive community. This is anticipated to have long-term positive effects as a driver for social cohesion and entrepreneurial diversity and economic growth. We ask that you pass a motion in support of the mural and authorize Public Works Director Tom McCarthy, in conjunction with artists, activists, and myself, to settle on an appropriate location and work out the logistics. We look forward to coming back to share progress and positive results with you. Many thanks for your consideration.
Stacy, if I could chime in a minute before you continue. So I know the address wasn't on the email. Mr. Patterson's address is 66 Chestnut Street.
Okay, thank you. And our second one is from Laura Lindgren, 30 Lucy Avenue. And I'm writing to express strong support for a Black Lives Matter mural in West Haven. I'm a third generation Westie. My mom and grandparents lived in Allentown. I was raised in the Center District, and I have lived with my family in West Shore for the past 27 years. I have touched every area of this great city, and it is with this perspective that I say it's about time West Haven shows support for the people of color that live, pay taxes, and work here. For too long, this city has been controlled by the same families and connected people, and we have a pitiful record of diversity in City Hall, our teachers, and all leaders. It's about time we grapple with racism in our community and show solidarity with a movement whose time has finally come. While the systemic problems of patronage in West Haven will take longer to address, a mural will not. It will show that West Haven is finally moving towards a more inclusive place. Just look on West Haven's The Way It Is group on Facebook to see the hatred and vitriol. We need city leaders with courage to do what is right and find our place in this historic moment. And then we have one from Olivia Powers. I am Olivia Powers of 30 Ivy Street. I write to the council in full support of the creation of a Black Lives Matter mural in West Haven. It is important that West Haven acknowledges its solidarity with its Black residents through this kind of symbolism because we want to show that all are welcome in this city. It is important that we validate our neighbors' experiences in words and deeds. It is up to us to continue to encourage the diversity that makes our community all that is today. When our city embraces projects like these, we invoke the best of our city, its inclusivity. I expect all members to take their responsibility seriously when they vote for the approval or disapproval of projects like the mural. Your validation of West Haven's inclusivity means everything. In an era of racial accountability, it is important that West Haven is on the right side of history, so please vote yes. This one is from Kayla Toole, and what was printed for me doesn't have an address. Oh, it does, but it doesn't have a number. I currently reside on Mohawk Drive, I'm sorry about that, and request that this be read at the August 24th council meeting. I am reaching out to express my feelings on West Haven adopting the creation of a Black Lives Matter mural. As a lifelong resident of West Haven, I understand the diversity of our city and the need for public support of the BLM movement. I think our community will feel connected, respected, and united if our city backs this movement and the creation and clear message of a BLM mural. As a mental health professional in West Haven, I know the positive impact that a mural and public support can have on our residents through this time of uncertainty, and that now more than ever, it is important to feel united. Catherine Fournier, looks like 42 Hillside Avenue. I'm writing to request my support for the Black Lives Matter mural in West Haven. This mural will show that West Haven cares about the Black community and the BLM cause. I am perplexed as to why this has become political and/or a debate. We should be supporting the Black community. Although I have recently moved out of West Haven, I've been to West Haven my entire life. I previously resided at 42 Hillside Avenue. This is to be read at the August 24th. That's from
Lee here has joined the meeting.
This one is from Kara Patterson. I hope you all are well. I'm reaching out to express my feelings on West Haven adopting the creation of a Black Lives Matter mural. I definitely think our community will feel connected, respected, and united if our city backs this movement in the creation and clear message of a Black BLM mural. Please consider this opportunity to express to our city where we stand on major issues that are moral compassing. As a teacher in this city, I see our students directly reflect the ideas of BLM and how positive they will feel if we stand behind those who are most affected in this movement. Thank you for your time and consideration. And I don't see an address on that. And this one is from Samantha DeGennaro at 97 Holcomb Street. I submit this letter to be read during the public portion of today's city council meeting. I am writing to inquire as to when our city will resume normal business. With the reopening of restaurants, stores, and in a few days, schools, there is no longer a justification for City Hall to be closed beyond the first floor and every Friday, as well as the city's many commissions to have stopped meetings and performing their duties. The lack of consistency in the city's response to this crisis leads to confusion within the community. How is it that City Hall is not safe without temperature checks, but schools are? How is it that the Board of Police Commissioners cannot hold public meetings, but the Board of Education can? Why are masks required for the Board of Education meetings, but the superintendent and board secretary do not need to wear them during that meeting? Why are our residents sending each other to other towns because our DMV is still isn't open even by appointment? As a community, we need to know who is in charge and what the rules are. The rules should not be selectively applied and enforced as it is happening currently. Lastly, I'm also asking for transparency on the process to lease the Savin Rock Conference Center. The proposal period is now finished, and I fear that the virus-related closures will lead to a process of approval with very little public transparency and input. That property is one of our greatest assets as a community, and the public should actively be kept informed. And our last letter is from Mark DeGennaro at 71 Ames Drive. My name is Mark DeGennaro, and I live at 71 Ames Drive. I want to bring to the attention of the council a few concerns. Your minutes are not made available within 7 days as required by law. The July 27th minutes were only posted on the city's website at the end of last week. I do not know if they were available in the city clerk's office, but they were not posted on her bulletin board, and I could not locate them today. Further, because the public has very limited access to City Hall, they need to be on the website in a timely fashion. I am also asking that you include more information on the agenda and even more information in regarding the reading of the agenda items, and even more when you discuss the matters. Each member of the council knows what each communication is, but you have it because you have it in front of you. However, the public only knows it as some communication from whomever. A much greater description used to be given on the agenda, really a summary, but that has stopped over 20 years ago. This is even more important with the closure of City Hall because members of the public cannot go into the City Council office to review these items. While I know that each of you has given thought to each item because I see the questions that you pose, it appears to the general public that you are simply a rubber stamp for clandestine activity. People always talk about transparency, yet the public has almost no idea what you are talking about in most matters. I suggest that you watch one of your council meetings and see what I mean. This came up because I have two concerns. The first relates to a correspondence related to several city-owned properties. Are they being sold, leased, developed? The item has been on the agenda for at least 2 meetings, and there is no information about what it entails. Also, it was not even brought up in the Public Lands Committee at the last meeting. I sat and listened to the July and June meetings each twice and could find little substantive information about most items on the agenda. My second concern relates to the Savin Rock Conference Center. I am happy that the city is finally looking to truly utilize this property. I question the timing and method, however. Mayor Rossi closed the building 2 years ago, but we have waited for a pandemic which threatens the very existence of restaurants, bars, and catering halls because of social distancing. Will a company make their best offer knowing that they cannot really open in a normal fashion, perhaps for many months? By taking the action now when it has been discussed for at least 2 years suggests a sweetheart deal is about to happen. The behind-the-scenes discussion about city property, such as the Forest School, showed that while the city may be giving things a lot of thought, they are not including the public until the last minute. The conference center is the jewel of the city, and we have wasted its enormous potential. I applaud the mayor for finally realizing what we truly have in the property, but I am concerned that the only thing that is being talked about is its condition. You wouldn't try to sell or lease a house by starting off with just how dilapidated it is. Why are we doing that with this property? I was corporation counsel when we purchased it as part of a global settlement of all of the old redevelopment lawsuits. At that time, there was a tremendous amount of interest from businesses to buy or lease the property. We held public hearings to see what the public wanted for the property. No such hearings have been held by this council, yet it appears that the city is ready to make this decision without hearing from the citizens. I hope that this is not what is happening, and I'm hoping that you will move very cautiously and deliberately on this issue. We have waited many years to see something truly positive there. We can wait several more months to make sure we get it right. And that concludes our communications this evening.
Thank you, Stacy. Just a couple of things for clarification, as the council knows, and so the public knows, is that any time that city property is being sold, there is a public hearing. There was a public hearing this past meeting about some properties that are currently on our agenda that will take place in the Public Lands Committee this evening. The Savin Rock Conference Center has been put out to bid. I believe those bids are closed, and that will have to come to us, this body, for our due diligence and deliberation. And then obviously that's in an open meeting. Regarding the mural, I believe that there are members of the city government that are working actively with Mr. Patterson and others to move that situation forward. That being said, we will enter into our regular council meeting. The first order of business is the approval of the minutes of July 27th, 2020. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Councilman Cohen, Councilman Galignano, is there a second? Second by Councilman Bruno and Councilman Massaro. Is there any discussion? I actually have one note for the meeting minutes. On page 10 at the top, for the resolution for the appointment of Paul Sikorsky of Orange Terrace, West Haven, we're missing the motion to approve, the second, and the actual vote. We recognize what the outcome was. I'll just have the clerk modify these minutes as I mentioned, putting in the motion to approve the second and the approval of the appointment. So that being said, is there any other discussion on the minutes? So I'd ask for a motion to approve as amended. Councilwoman O'Connor, Councilman Bruno, is there a second? By several, Councilman Donovan, Councilwoman Hamilton, all in favor? Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. I could ask the clerk to please pass out tonight's communications.
Okay. We have before us communication A from Mayor Nancy R. Rossi in regards to the appointment of Troy Tappan to the West Haven Allentown Fire Commission, being assigned to the Personnel and Civil Service Committee. Chairman Massaro. We have before us communication B from Mayor Nancy R. Rossi in regards to the renaming of Chamber of Commerce Ralph Eberly Park to Ralph Eberly Park, being assigned to the Public Lands Committee. Chairman Donovan. We have before us communication C from Councilwoman Finelli in regards to amendments to the Code of the City of West Haven, Chapter 89 Dogs, being assigned to Legislative Matters Committee. Chairman Galignano. We have before us communication D from Chief Joseph Perno in regards to animal shelter donations, being assigned to the Finance Committee. Chairwoman Hosky. We have before us communication E from Corporation Counsel in regards to the sale of city-owned property, 100 Wilson Avenue, 122A Wilson Avenue, 124 Wilson Avenue, 742 Washington Avenue, being assigned to the Public Lands Committee. Chairman Donovan. We have before us communication F from grants writer Doug Coulter in regards to the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant, being assigned to the Finance Committee. Chairwoman Hosky. We have before us communication G from the tax collector in regards to overpayment refunds for the month of August 2020, which will be filed with tonight's minutes. And we have before us communication H from the city engineer Abdul Qadir in regards to a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection regarding being assigned to the Finance Committee. Chairwoman Hosky. And that concludes your communications this evening.
Thank you, Stacy. And I decided to mix it up this evening. So now let's take the roll call.
Okay. Councilman Donovan,
Present.
Councilwoman O'Connor,
Council at large here.
Councilwoman Hosky,
Councilwoman Bridget Hosky, First District, present.
Councilman Conlon,
He's here.
he's here. Yeah, I know he's here. I saw him, but Councilwoman Johnston,
Present.
Councilman Galignano, Mitch is having voice issues, and I can see him though. Councilwoman Hamilton,
Councilwoman Robin Hamilton, 5th District, present.
Councilman Massaro,
Councilman Pissarro, 6th District, present.
Councilwoman McGee,
Councilwoman Trinae McGee, 7th District, present.
Councilwoman Finelli,
Councilwoman Crystal Finelli, 8th District, present.
Councilman Bruno,
Councilman Robert Bruno, 9th District, present.
Councilman Cohen,
Councilman Barry Lee Cohen, 10th District, present.
and Chairman Quagliani.
Councilman Ron Quagliani, Council at Large, present. Thank you, Stacy. Okay, we'll recess into committee meetings. The first committee is the Finance Committee, Councilwoman Hosky.
Thank you, Chairman. We have present for our committee, Councilwoman Hamilton, Councilman Massaro, Councilman Bruno, Councilman Cohen, and myself acting as chair. We have before us communication F from grants writer Doug Coulter in regards to the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve. Councilman Cohen and seconded by Councilman Bruno. Is there any discussion? Okay. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. And we also have before us communication H from City Engineer Abdul Qadir in regards to a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Bruno, can I have a second? Councilwoman Hamilton and Cohen. Any discussion? Councilman Cohen?
Yes. I don't see if there's anyone here from, I don't know if Doug, you can answer this question, or if Frank is on the line. I'm not sure.
Lee, Frank are here as well.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I just.
Oh, no, it's okay. You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm just very curious because I'm in favor of this, and something I'm just so curious about, because I'm a new council member, first term, is I'm happy to see that there is a minimum requirement for minority business enterprise of 3% and woman business enterprise of 5%, which I'd love to see 25% or higher, of course, if it was my druthers. But do we, if indeed this gets approved and so forth, have we been working in terms of the city, in terms of these types of clean water fund applications in the past? And maybe it's not a fair question, that we've been able to easily reach those minimums, or are we going above those minimums? Any type of feel for that? Because I would love to see that the city I just don't know who we work with, and I never really see female enterprises or minority enterprises really highlighted on any of our grants. And if it's not an appropriate question, my apologies to the council, but I just had to ask. Thank you. Anyone who wants to take that? Frank or Doug or Lee?
I'm sorry, Councilman, are you asking if there are grants that are being pursued by certain individuals?
Mitchell
You're
has
on
joined the
mute, sir.
meeting.
You're muted, Councilman Cohen. I think, right, I think the question got,
Yeah.
I don't think they understand your question.
Okay, I see on the application for the Clean Water Fund that there is minimum requirements for minority business enterprises of 3% and also women business enterprises of 5%. And I assume that we've done these Clean Water Fund applications in the past. And I'm just kind of curious, in terms of a city, how do we meet those quotas? Are we normally at 3% or 5% or 10%? Just on past history on these type of applications. I'd be interested to know how we're doing in terms of the minority and women business enterprise. Where do we stand? Do we just barely meet the requirements on these applications, or do we have a pool of usual applicants that meet those criteria? And if you don't know, you don't know. As I said, it's a curiosity that I have.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have that data. But I do know, to your point, the Clean Water Fund applications have been a consistent process over the years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to that point is I'm making a big assumption that they probably had similar minimum requirements in past years. Thus was my question, because if they did, then I would say, oh, okay, so we have a pool of contractors, if you will, that meet that profile, versus if they're hard to get those profiles, then we're applying for an application that might be unattainable. And that's my only reason. It's probably not a big deal, but I was curious, so I asked. Thank you.
No, thank you, Councilman Cohen. Does anyone else have any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. For some reason, I forgot communication D, which I'm sorry. It's from Chief Joseph Perno in regards to an animal shelter donations. I'd like to entertain a motion to bring this out favorably. Thank you, Councilman Bruno. A seconded? Have a second? Thank you, Councilman Cohen. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Any all in favor? Any noes? I'm gonna start laughing. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, and then we have communication A from our 7/27/20 agenda from the finance director in regards to an ordinance authorizing the issuance of $6,313,100 in bonds plus additional financing costs of the city to meet certain 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2021 capital budget appropriation, and pending the issuance thereof, the making of a temporary borrowings for such purpose. I'd like to entertain a motion to bring this out favorably.
Motion to bring.
Councilman Cohen, thank you. Can I have a second? Councilman Bruno, thank you. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. The time is 7:29. Your Committee on Finance closes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilwoman Kowalski. Our next committee is the Public Lands Committee, Councilman Donovan.
Thank you, Chairman Quagliani. The time is 7:29. The Committee on Public Lands is now in session. Members present: Councilman Galignano, Councilwoman Finelli, Councilman Conlon, Councilwoman O'Connor, and myself acting as chair. We have before us tonight Communication B, renaming of 3rd Avenue Park to Ralph Eberly Park. I'd like to bring this out favorably. I'd like a motion to bring this out favorably. Chairwoman O'Connor. And I need a second.
Second.
Councilwoman Finelli, Councilman Galignano. Any discussion? All right. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. That we have a communication E. Communication from corporate counsel in regards to the sale of city property, specifically 100 Wilson Avenue, 122A Wilson Avenue, 124 Wilson Avenue, and 742 Washington Avenue. I'd like to bring this out favorably for discussion. And the motion, okay, Councilwoman O'Connor. Do I have a second? Councilman Galignano, Councilwoman Finelli. Any discussion on this? For some reason, I don't have everybody up here. You have a discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, with that, the Committee on Public Lands is closed at this time.
Thank you, Councilman Donovan. Councilman Galignano, are you back with us?
I am. I'm on a phone only, so I can't see anybody.
All right, we could translate for you if you'd like, if you want to run the committee, or you could defer, whatever you'd like to do.
I'll do my best to run the committee then.
All right, so the next up is the Legislative Matters Committee, Councilman Galignano.
The time is 7:32, and your Committee on Legislative Matters is now in session. Committee members are Councilman Bruno, Councilwoman Johnson, Councilwoman Finelli, and Councilman Cohen. First up, we have Communication C from Councilwoman Finelli in regards to amendments to the Code of the City of West Haven, Chapter 89, Dogs. Do I read this 89-4 first, Mr. Chairman?
No, we would do that when it comes out to the full council. You just need a motion to approve if that's what your choice is.
Sure. So I would look for a motion to approve 89-4 and 89-10.
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
So now we have discussion. Is that my understanding? Seeing that I'm all
Yes.
discombobulated.
Yep, discussion will be next. Yep.
Okay. So seeing I can't see any hands, Mr. Chairman, would you
Sure. I'd be happy to.
would you take over?
Yep,
Thank you.
Councilwoman Finelli.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd just like to say the reason this was proposed is for safety issues, and also because some residents have complained about people allowing dogs to go to the bathroom on their lawns. The reason that we currently have it in the ordinance that dogs have to be leashed. There is a fine that goes along with that ordinance of $100. All this would be doing is specifying that the leash length is 6 feet as opposed to, any leash that could be as long as you can imagine. And the reason for 6 feet is because that's a standard leash size. It's also the size leash that the American Kennel Club has deemed the safest. Many towns have ordinances specifying the length of the leash. More urban towns like New Haven specify that it has to be 4 feet, while more rural places like Greenwich, for example, has an ordinance that it has to be no longer than 10 feet. So we also kind of agreed that because we're somewhere in the middle, we have a little more room to walk around than a busy city like New Haven, but we maybe don't have the space as a more rural community, that the 6-foot amendment seemed reasonable and it seemed to be safe. And that's it. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Councilman Cohen?
Yes, hi. Let me start out by saying I think Councilwoman Johnson's amendment is very thoughtful, and I have to have some respectful disagreements with it. If I know that there's been certain cities and towns that have been mentioned about 4 feet or 10 feet or 8 feet, and I can tell you the only ones with the written code that they write literally in the code that it's 10 feet is Madison. New Haven doesn't list it specifically in their code, and neither does Milford have any specific things written in their codes. I also would like to say that it really is, in my opinion, it's personal ownership responsibility of the person who owns the animal. Because if you have a shorter leash for some type of breeds, it could actually hurt the owner and/or animal. When you talk about aggression, you can have positive aggression where a happy dog jumps up on you unexpectedly and unwelcome, where they want to lick you, and those particular instances where, unfortunately, you have those more vicious dogs. There's been no data that shows that there has been any type of evidence proving if there was a shorter leash or any particular size leash that it's going to eliminate any of these dangers. In terms of the 1 or 2 incidences that might be mentioned by constituents about garden beds being upset, well, call the dog warden. This is a one-on-one type of thing. I think that we're overreaching, and to quote a professional trainer and behavioralist, as well as associations that I belong to, like the Connecticut Humane Society and others, that this is an unrealistic, unenforceable, and arbitrary number. To call a standard leash 6 feet today is really not really standard, in the sense being that, yes, that's what you get off the shelf, but many people today are using retractable leashes, which I do agree, in the ideal world, I like them banned because they can go up to 25 feet or more. However, what you also find is well over 95%, the vast majority of dog owners are good owners and good dogs, and we should not be penalizing them. The other thing that, regardless if you're a professional dog trainer or behavioralist, or you're somebody who has a well-trained dog, leads basically go about 10 or 12 feet. And that's why Madison was able to stipulate 10 feet. I think at the end of the day, the responsibility to ensure safety lies with the owner, and a particular leash length is truly arbitrary. I would really hope that we would at least consider that we take into consideration the number of people that come to our shorefront from the economic development standpoint, take care of their dogs quite well, and maintain it quite well, and then they go and they patronize our shops anywhere. Should it be from picking up a pizza to picking up donuts or what have you? We're supposed to be a welcoming and engaging city, and what we do is we just add more restrictions, unenforceable restrictions. The only time that they might even be enforced is if, God forbid, something bad happens, at which point you get the attorneys involved. I honestly think that, we have to obviously prevent private property infringements such as garden bed destruction. But the vast majority of well-behaved dogs, if there was something in our city that we saw an increase in something or provoking this, but this is coming from really 1 or 2 constituents from one district, and is not really speaking for the number of people that feel that they can maintain their dogs and they do want to enjoy not just our shorefront, but their sidewalks in front of their houses and so forth. And small dog or big dog, you have a 6-foot leash, a small dog is going to cause the same trouble as a big dog. Matter of fact, with a big dog, it's easier to restrain with a slightly longer leash than 6 feet. A smaller dog, you don't even need 6 feet. So again, the number is arbitrary. I know we all want to do right. We all want to do good. You think this is for safety. This is not giving you any additional layer of safety whatsoever. This is just basically a convenient, easy pass to say yes to. And you know what? I think that we have to just say to ourselves, you know what? We are opening a dog park where there's going to be liability there for people that want to, for dogs that are going to let their run free when you're on a leash and so forth. Hey, listen, if I would be willing to compromise in the sense being that, hey, I don't want retractable leashes. They are dangerous. I would agree with that. And they go 25 feet or more. But for most people, a standard range of leash, and that's what you have to take a look at based on breed and size of dog. based on that, is you have to take a look at a range of, you could be arbitrary from 2 to 10 feet or 2 to 12 feet, because that allows those people, just like when you drive a car and you go to driver's ed and they make you do the parking lot first before they put you on the road. But you know what? We have very viable freelancers, independent businesses, and owners that aren't involved in business that want to be able to exercise with their dogs and so forth. And I honestly think that no one here can give me an absolute statistic that makes a 6-foot leash safer. And if the objective is safer and the objective is to save garden beds, this revision of this preparational phrase of 6 feet does nothing for that. I know it's well intended, but my goodness, let's stop over legislating. Let's stop overreaching. Let's spend our time basically doing something a little more productive. And this, to me, I really feel that, you know, when I basically talk to professionals at the Connecticut Humane Society, I talk to people in part of rescue organizations, I talk to dog behavioralists. And yes, I do know that there are annual shelter people that maybe want to stay in the field differently per se, but for every one of those, there's another one with the other side. And you know what? You can't enforce it. If you can't enforce it, it's just another piece of language and another ordinance or code that is not going to be followed up on. So I would please consider to the full council when you get this, because it'll probably die in this committee and be approved for 6 feet, that when it reaches the full council, I will bring up this motion again. But for right now, I beseech you to please put aside the 1 or 2 constituents that seem to have a problem with their garden beds. Think about personal ownership, the ownership that you have a responsibility to your dog, big, small, long leash, short leash, retractable chain, whatever. And it's about time that we just let people be responsible for their property. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Just before if I see if there's any other discussion, Councilwoman Johnston, did you make an amendment to this that I believe Councilman Cohen referred to your amendment. You didn't make any amendment.
I did not, no.
Okay. Is there any other hold on, Councilman.
Yep.
You want to clarify just that one piece? Go right ahead.
Yes, when it gets to the full council, I'll be making an amendment. I didn't mean to say that Councilwoman Johnston made any amendment, but I will be recommending an amendment to the full council. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion from the committee? I don't see any Councilman Galignano, so I guess we'll poll the committee. All in favor, raise your hand. Councilwoman Finelli, Councilwoman Johnston. Are you voting, Councilman Bruno?
I'm trying to vote. Can you hear me?
I see you, Councilwoman Conlon. Thank you.
Okay, all right. I have a delay on my video, so it makes it difficult.
Are there any opposed?
Opposed.
Councilman Cohen. Councilman Galignano, your motion passes by majority.
Committee, so.
You have one more communication in your committee, Councilman Galignano.
Yep, communication D from the 727 agenda from Douglas Coulter in regards to an ordinance amending Chapter 81 Building Department fees. Looking for a motion to bring this out favorably.
Councilman Bruno. Go ahead, Councilman.
So is there any discussion?
Councilman. Second will be Councilman Finelli. And then the discussion, Councilman Cohen.
You guys broke up there. I just want to make sure that I was allowed to speak on Mr. Cutler's. Okay, thank you. I did want to bring up something. First of all, I'd like to thank Doug Cutler for spending a good hour on the phone with me today to go through this. And the reason why I did is the mayor had put a cover letter here nicely outlining, you know, her fine rationale for wishing for us to approve this in front of us. But I must tell you, after last week's meeting, I was absolutely upset. I was upset because, as it turned out in retrospect, at least in my packet, in my electronic files, and maybe because I'm in the minority and maybe it was mentioned in the majority caucus, I have no idea whatsoever, but we received abbreviated documentation. When I say abbreviated documentation for us to review, we basically got the strike-throughs to the proposed ordinance, and we also got the last page of the spreadsheet. We did not get all the rationale about the data, about the digital filing and the software upgrades and so forth. It was really only discovered on the final resolution that was laid out. And so, as it turns out, I believe there was some type of upfront summary or information that I was lacking. And not only I was lacking, but every packet was lacking. And I must say that if we were to have, this was presented to us last month. And when I basically asked a couple of simple questions, like why $100 per incident versus $100 per day, and I asked about that, it was as if, in a patronizing way, I was told, well, if you want, we'll set up some time with you in that department and we'll run through it with you. I had no idea what they were talking about, no idea whatsoever, until at the end when the resolution was read, it basically bulleted out a number of things that would have been in the original cover letter, which would have included outdated and obsolete, which would have included security faults and would have included access to, a number of storage requirements. All the stuff that if you go through the documents that was given to us last month, all it was the revised proposed ordinance and that. That is incomplete information. If in the future, and last month I did approve it, and I approved it proudly because I knew that the department is really doing a great job, and I take people's word and effort. But if in the future that the expert person, the expert advice is not going to be here to address it, at the very least, please give us the full documentation to anything that comes before us, because this was not complete. And so when I was a little upset last month, I had every right to be, because you know what? If you're asking us to vote on something and to forward something, the next time I wouldn't be able to do it. But because I knew it was the good people in the building department, because I knew it was Doug Cutler. But when I'm reading this and I'm basically told about the exceptional job of summarizing and detailing the information, based on what we got at last month's meeting as a council person, was incomplete. And so I just want to say that in the future, we have to be given more information. This could not be considered. Now, when I left that meeting last month, but I no longer feel this way. When I left the meeting last month, I thought that all we were supposed to be was a rubber stamp. And that really infuriated me. So I do want to say, in the future, I expect certain departments, and they will not be named here, and individuals will not be named here, to show some respect to the council, show some respect if it needs to be. If you're giving some information to the majority, please make sure the minority also gets this information. This is unacceptable. Once again, I thank Mr. Cutler and the building department for a spectacular job on this, since now I've learned about it. But yes, I am very concerned how this went, and I hope this doesn't go this way again. Thank you.
So Councilman Cohen, if you feel that information was lacking in our packet, I know that you always do your due diligence, and if in fact you felt that, again, no one would ever be a rubber stamp on this council, but if you felt that way, then at that point you should have either abstained or voted against the communication. But so noted that if you feel that your packet's incomplete, we'll always work to make sure that you get the more information. But at the end of the day, we all have a choice whether to vote for something or against something. Is there any other discussion? In committee, is there any other discussion? Okay, Chairman Galignano, you're back on the clock. You can call the vote. Oh, hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. The mayor would like to speak.
Sure.
There. Can you hear me? One can hear me?
Yeah.
First off, I would, as I did write the letter, I hope everybody will take that consideration in support of the changes to this ordinance. I also would like to say that one of the changes came about because of a councilwoman who was riding by a project on a weekend and saw a roof being done and no permit was on. And instead of just, hoping they had a permit, she did contact Fred Masori, who went out and took a look at it, and lo and behold, they didn't have a permit. So when I found that out, because I received emails, first off, I'd like to thank Councilwoman Hosky, because anytime you see something, say something. You can call it into our, I don't know if there's feedback. Looks like everybody's muted, but
Has left the meeting.
you can call it into, any of the office building department. And I started thinking, and I wrote an email to the certain people in the building department and also Fred Masori, inquiring, was there like a penalty? Because if I'm going and getting my permit on time, ahead of time, and as the councilwoman found, somebody else is not, why should we pay the same amount of money? So I did do some pushback for that, and that's one of the parts in here, and I believe it's $100, and I know Doug knows a lot more about it because we've discussed this at length, but I think it's important that people realize it's, you just can't do what you want and put things on. Not only will it gain the city some revenue, but it will level the playing field and make sure that additions are done up to code, that they are safe. I mean, you don't want people moving into a multifamily house, you're renting, and you have no idea who did the work. And then what happens if, something happens? So I'd like to, again, thank Councilwoman Bridget Hosky, and I'd like to encourage anybody, if you see anything out there, anything at all that, that you see a lot of work getting done, especially on a weekend. And I hate to say that, but that was the scenario here, because people are expecting they're going to figure I have a permit. Please feel free to call it into the building department. And if for any reason you can't do that, call my office, and Kristen or Marchin will take the information down and we will get it checked out. Because I think it's important that we don't leave any money on the table. Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
I can't mute now.
So is there any more discussion? I don't see any. All in favor?
Aye.
And that concludes the business of legislative matters at 7:52, and I apologize.
So you got cut out a little bit, Councilman Galagnano. You called the vote all in favor. I didn't hear opposed.
I did say opposed, and I did ask for abstentions. I didn't see any. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I had none, and I said motion passes unanimously.
No one has nobody was opposed to that or abstained, right? Just to verify, since we're having some technical issues tonight. Okay. Thank you, Councilman Galagnano. Next up is Personnel and Civil Service Committee, Councilman Massaro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It is now 7:53. Committee of Personnel and Civil Matters is now in session. Members on the committee are Councilwoman Hamilton, Councilwoman McGee, Councilman Bruno, and Councilwoman O'Connor. We got before us from Communication A, the Mayor Rossi, in regards to appoint Troy Tappan to the City of West Haven Fire Department Board of Fire Commissioners. I'd like to bring this out in favor. Thank you, Colleen. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Bruno. Any discussion? Councilman Hamilton?
I think this is a good choice, and I thank the mayor for that. I know Troy. He does live in Councilman Massaro's district, but I've known him for a long time. He does have some fire interest on his job, I think that he will serve the Allentown Fire Department quite well as a commissioner. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to say something too, that Mr. Tappan is also on the fire brigade. That's what he's got a little bit of background in his, where he worked. And he's also at his present job, I think he has a little bit fire watch also. So that's why he has a little bit of a background into it. Any other discussions? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? And the Committee on Personnel and Civil Service is closed at 7:55. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Massaro. Next committee is the Charter Revision Committee, Councilwoman Hamilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The time is now 7:56. The Committee on Charter Revision is in session. The members of the council are Councilwoman Hosky, Councilman Galignano, Councilman Massaro, Councilman Cohen, and myself as chair. We have before us tonight Communication J from the 7/27/2020 agenda from Corporation Council in regards to an ordinance amending Chapter 6 Veterans Advisory Committee. I would like to bring this out favorably. Do I hear a second? Councilman Massaro. Oh, did I get a motion? I'm sorry, a motion? Councilman Massaro.
And I second it.
Second, Councilwoman Hosky. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The Committee of Charter Revision is closed and the time is 7:57. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hamilton. Next up is the Tax Deferral Committee, Councilman Massaro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It is now 7:57. Committee of Tax Deferral is now in session. Present is Councilwoman Hamilton, Councilman O'Connor, Councilman Conlon, and Councilman Galliano. I like to reject this tax deferral because not enough information was brought forward. And I requested it at the last meeting. I have not received any. So I would like to bring this out forward as far as rejecting it. I have a motion? Connor?
As long as I'll make the motion.
Second it? Councilman O'Connor?
Second. Yep. Second.
Any discussion? Anybody opposed to this? Any abstentions? The Committee on Tax Referral has ended at 7:58.
Thank you, Councilman Massaro. We'll now enter into unfinished business. I believe the Corp Counsel is with us this evening. If he could give the council an overview since our last update on the Haven project, and then if the council has any questions for him, we'll entertain them at this time. Mr. Tiernan?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. So they've pretty much done the preliminary hazmat work that needs to be performed to do demolition. I believe they've gone through all their queues in terms of demolition. The only part I couldn't confirm was whether or not Fire Marshal Flood signed off on his. So I will try to find that out tomorrow. The second fire marshal Flood signs off, they will begin demolition. Their permits will be in order. They've hired a landscaper that we can contact directly, who is going to perform, even though it's fenced off and there's going to be demolition work, the landscaping crew will try to keep the place nice. And Commissioner Masori is going to also be involved in the monitoring. He knows the landscaper for contact purposes, so he's going to be able to have more direct contact with his department to have more swift response time in terms of blight or issues that concern the community. And that's all I have at present.
Any council members have any questions for council? So Lee, I have a question. So I'm under the impression that once the fire marshal signs off on the demolition permit, within days or week, that demolition will commence?
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Anything else from the council? Councilman Donovan.
Side, non-water side, Oh, was I unmuted? Sorry.
You came in halfway, Councilman Donovan, if you repeat the question.
Sure. Lee, the demolition portion, do we know if it's going to be certain buildings? Is it going to be just the water side? Is it going to be just the land side? Do we know anything like that on how many buildings may come down?
Yeah, so per the grant funding from the state, the agreement was that the demolition that would occur would be demolition that could expedite access to the public linear park along the waterway. So the grant money can go towards demolition along the Long Island Sound side of Water Street and all along Elm Street. At present, the DOT is not looking for the contractor to begin the improvements in the traffic sphere along Elm Street. I think that's frankly a funding issue or more of a cash flow issue. What we should see very shortly is demolition all along the water. That would all be clear, and then demolition all along Elm Street. That would also be clear. And then I think there might be some other cleanup by the landscaping folks.
All right, I appreciate that. My other question I had, you kind of answered it, was, do we know when they're going to start Elm? But you already answered that. Thank you, Lee.
Yep.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Donovan. Lee, I think some of the questions that probably the council has, I know I have, that you can't answer, I'd like maybe if you could pass along to Commissioner Masori, is that I'd really like to see a representative of the developer come and give us an update. I mean, we're fielding a lot of questions. I mean, I recognize that demolition is going to start, but it's going to start in part. We'd really love to see a project timeline, just to get an idea, the timeline of the project and what their commitment is to the overall completion of the project. It's been a long time, and the people in that area have had to put up with an awful lot. So I think, I don't think you could provide us those answers. If you can, we're happy to listen tonight. But if not, I'd really like to see if we could get a representative from the developer to come and answer some questions, if they would.
Yeah, I'll reach out to them. I don't actually think that's a problem. I'll reach out to them, and I don't know if I can make it so for your very next meeting, but I certainly think you could have that. And you have 2 meetings in September, so I think at least one of the meetings in September, you could have that.
Okay, thank you. Anything else from the council on this topic? Okay, moving on. Council will convene for committee reports. If the clerk could read communication G into the record.
Okay, we have communication. We have communication G from the tax collector in regards to overpayment refunds for the month of August 2020, which will be filed with tonight's minutes.
Okay, thank you, Stacy. Okay, first committee is the Finance Committee, Councilwoman Hosky.
Thank you, Chairman. To the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven, your Committee on Finance, to whom was referred the matter of the animal shelter donations, reports that the committee met on the 24th day of August 2020 to consider said matter. It is the unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Resolved, that the following donation to the Department of Police Service be approved and deposited into line item 1010000028285 animal shelter donations. Joan Aguilino for $50, Angela Russo for $100, Mark Nichols $50, Elaine Costanzo $50, Linda Brunelli $100, Patrick Kelly $150, Angela Golias, $25, Era Wire Incorporated, $50, Angela Russo, $100, and Patrick Massey, $15.
Councilwoman Hosky has brought forward communication D from Chief Joseph Perno in regards to animal shelter donations. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Galignano. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. To the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven, your Committee on Finance, to whom was referred the matter of the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant, reports that the committee met on the 24th day of August 2020 to consider said matter. It is the unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Resolved, the City Council of the City of West Haven hereby approves and authorizes Mayor Nancy R. Rossi to apply for and accept the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistant Grant in the amount of $16,176.
Councilwoman Hosky has brought forward communication F from grants writer Doug Coulter in regards to the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant. Is there a second? Second, Councilman Bruno, Councilman Hamilton, Councilman Cohen. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Are there any opposed? Any abstentions? And that motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. To the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven, your Committee on Finance, to whom was referred the matter of the resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, reports that the committee met on the 24th day of August 2020 to consider said matter. It is the unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Resolved, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of West Haven that it is in the best interest of the City of West Haven to enter into contracts with the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. That is written wrong. In furtherance of the resolution, Nancy R. Rossi, the mayor, is duly authorized to enter into and sign said contracts on behalf of the City of West Haven, Connecticut. the mayor is further authorized to provide such additional information and execute other documents as may be required by the state or federal government in connection with said contracts and to execute any amendments, rescissions, and revisions thereto. The mayor is authorized to impress the seal of the city of West Haven, Connecticut on any such document, amendment, rescission, and revision.
Councilwoman, communication H, communication from City Engineer Abdul Qadir in regards to a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. Is there a second? Councilman Cohen, Councilman Massaro, Councilman Bruno, is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Are there any opposed? Are there any abstentions? And that motion passes unanimously.
This is communication A from 727 agenda to the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven. Your Committee on Finance, to whom was referred the matter of an ordinance authorizing the issuance of $6,313,100 in bonds plus additional financing costs of the city to meet certain 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2021 capital budget appropriations and pending the issuance thereof, the making of temporary borrowing for such purpose. Reports that the committee met on the 24th day of August 2020 to consider said matter. It is the unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. The second reading approval proposed bond ordinance provides the following. Approves capital project bonds in a maximum amount of $6,313,000 plus. Well, this is wrong. It's $6,313,100 plus cost of issuance to finance certain capital projects approved in the 2018, 2019, 2020, and the 2020-2021 capital budgets. Sorry. Toby. His barking scared me. I wasn't ready. I apologize. Pick him up, please. Capital budgets of the city in accordance with the requirements of Chapter 109 of the Connecticut General Statutes. Authorizes the mayor, the finance director, and the treasurer of the bond committee to sell the capital projects in competitive or negotiated offering. Authorizes bonds to be issued pursuant to the terms of the city trust indenture. Authorizes bond committee to issue bond anticipation notes for short-term financing prior to the issuance of the bonds. Provides bond committee with option to issue clean water fund obligations in an amount not to exceed $1,740,000 plus costs of issuance for the EPA consent decree in the sewer pump station upgrade projects. Authorizes the bond committee to take all necessary actions in connection with the capital project bonds, including actions relating to the tax-exempt nature of the bonds, the reimbursement of prior city capital expenditures and those needed to satisfy post-issuance disclosure obligations. Authorizes the mayor, the finance director, and other duly authorized city officials to apply for grants for capital projects.
Councilwoman Hoskey's brought forward communication A from the 7/27/20 agenda from the finance director in regards to an ordinance authorizing the issuance of $6,313,100 in bonds plus additional financing costs to the city to meet certain 2018-19, 2019, 2020, and 2020-21 capital budget appropriations and pending the issuance thereof, the making of temporary borrowings for such purpose. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Councilman Galignano, Massaro, Bruno. Is there any, Cohen, is there any discussion? Councilman Massaro.
and this might be directed to Frank. I should have asked this before, and it just came to my mind. If we're doing this, does the MARB know about it? Do they approve of this? Because we can't make any moves without the MARB.
Yes, they know about this. It's going to go onto the schedule for the next full MARB meeting. Bill Lindsay will be there to review. And they do know that everything in this ordinance was included as part of the debt service projections in both the budget and the 5-year plan.
Okay, so in other words, there's nothing, no surprises or nothing. They know about it and everything. Okay.
They do, sir.
Mark knows about it. Thank you, Frank. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Massaro. Is there any other discussion? Councilman Donovan?
Yeah, Frank, might as well stay on. It says additional finance costs. Any idea what that might run?
I don't at this point.
I mean, we have no idea. I mean, could it be 500,000? Could it be $1 million? Could
No,
be...
no, it wouldn't be that much.
Okay. Ballpark?
Probably 200,000-300,000. That would probably come out of the premium payment on it.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion? Frank, just to underline it, this is approved in the budget and it's consistent with the 5-year plan, right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Seeing no other discussion, all in favor? Are there any opposed? Any abstentions? And that motion passes unanimously.
Your Committee on Finance is done.
Okay, next committee is the Public Lands Committee. Councilman Donovan.
Thank you, Chairman Quagliano. To the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven, we're talking about Communication B. Your Committee on Public Lands, to whom was referred the matter renaming 3rd Avenue Park. Reports that the committee met on the 24th day of August 2020 to consider said matter. It is the unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Resolved, the City Council of the City of West Haven hereby approves the renaming of Chamber of Commerce Ralph Eberly Park to Ralph Eberly Park.
Councilman Donovan has brought forward Communication B from Mayor Nancy R. Rosser in regards to the renaming of Chamber of Commerce Ralph Eberly Park to Ralph Eberly Park. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilwoman Hosky, Councilwoman Johnson, Councilwoman O'Connor, Councilman Galignano. Is there any discussion? Mayor Rossi.
Everyone can hear me, right?
Yes.
I just wanted to, take this other step, if you will, and thank you for the council's consideration on this. The chamber, as you know, was part of the name because that's what was in the minutes. So I did reach out to Donovan, who reached out to Chairman Hoyle on Park and Rec to see if they would consider another vote so that we would have it, just for Ralph Eberly Park. I understand the chamber, wasn't concerned about it. They were fine with the name being removed. And I feel that, and obviously so did others, that this would be the proper, designation of the park. Ralph was a great guy. I served with him on the city council for a few years. He was a gentleman. He's just a wonderful father and husband, and he's sorely missed in this community. And I think this is going to be a great way of honoring him, not just for now, but for years in the future, and also for, his family and the honor that Ralph so, well deserved. So I just wanted to go. So this will be the last time because we've been through this a couple of times, but I checked with Lee to make sure everything was done correctly, and it is. So thank you. And thank you for your indulgence, because I know it had to appear again, and I wanted to get it done correctly. So thank you very much. Oh, and we're going to pick a celebration date too. So everybody will be invited when we do that, when the park is officially dedicated.
Thank you, Mayor. Is there any other discussion? So as the mayor said, it was a long road to get here, but again, I think the dedication is well deserved. I know that many people were involved to get to this point, so I'm not going to name names, but I think it's a wonderful tribute to a wonderful man. So that being said, all in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Any abstentions? And that motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Chairman Quagliani. I have communication E to the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven. Your Committee on Public Lands, to whom was referred the matter of the sale of city property, specifically 100 Wilson Avenue, 122A Wilson Avenue, 124 Wilson Avenue, 742 Washington Avenue. Reports that the committee met on the 24th day of August 2020 to consider said matter. It's unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. This communication will be, well, it says will be held in committee, but it won't. I'd like to bring this out to the council.
Lee, are you on the line? Lee, are you there?
Yes, here, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me?
Yes. So Committee Chairman Donovan bring this out. But could you go over the background of these properties and the sale price, these for the council and for the public?
Yeah, I mean, we're probably going to see more of this. So, for example, the 3 parcels on Wilson Avenue, there's an individual, Mr. Rose, who lives on Wilson Avenue. These are adjoining parcels. She just would like to locate a pool. She's been interested in these parcels since January. And half of them are wetlands. Building lot size, if you combine them all, would be a comparable lot to the surrounding community, but you still have to get a ZBA approval on a variance because there's no existing grandfathering of a foundation or a building. So they would be sold with a deed restriction as to what you could do with them. They would be sold with a restriction that there would be no building of any structure or any foundation. She would be able to build a pool. That's all that the restriction would allow. And so she's interested in that. If we advertise the sale, we had the legal notice, nobody responded for the hearing. Because that sale isn't going to generate much of a price because it's just vacant land. If you advertise it, you're sort of, you're possibly throwing good money after bad. No one's expressed an interest in these parcels. Concerning Washington Avenue, that's a parcel that used to have one of the buckle factories. The city's owned it since 2001. The adjoining landowner has expressed an interest in that parcel. They've offered $25,000, which is in line with what the value of land is on the adjoining parcel. The lot appears to be cleaned. It was cleaned with government funds that we used to demolish and clean the site. Since the property's been on the books since 2001, we've only had one interested party interested in buying the land, and the adjoining property owner has an easement to get access to his property. In addition, the property butts up against a railroad bridge, and it also is at the intersection where Wood street comes out. So it'd be very difficult to put another curb cut in. So I think 25,000 is actually a fair price, but what I did get that potential purchaser to agree to through his lawyer is that he would pay for ads in the Voice and the New Haven Register, and all I'm looking for the council approval there is approval of the $25,000 price if I can't get an offer that exceeds that price. Therefore, I can move forward on both of those parcels. So there wouldn't be an ad on the Wilson Avenue property. There would be an ad in the Register and the Voice on the Washington Avenue property, and only if we got an offer above the 25,000 would that parcel not be sold. And again, the legal ad would be funded through the purchase price, additional added on to the purchase price of the 25,000, so the ads have no cost to the city. So I'm recommending that the city go forward with these sales. These are the kind of offloading of city assets that it's time for us to do. And as I've said before, you're going to get more sales like this. More complicated sales will mean more information in advance and probably more debate. But these are the less complicated adjoining property owner sales that you're also going to see. I can tell you I have at least 5 more that are people have requested.
Lee, I don't believe there's a sale price. What is the sale price for the Wilson Avenue properties?
That property owner, I suggested a price of $3,500. That property owner has asked for a price of $2,000. She says that's firm. My only fear on the 2,000, I'm really trying to establish a $3,500 floor. You could come off the floor a little, but remember you're going to have other sales, and I don't want the adjoining landowner sales to be nibbled to a point where, you know, people just think that they don't have to pay the city a nickel for these parcels. The parcel has value to the individual. She wants to put a pool there. It is adjoining parcel, so you know, I'm looking to negotiate a little bit. If you want to come off the 3,500, I don't disagree with that. If you want to do the 2,000, the city is still better off than where we stand. The properties will come on the tax rolls, but I'm recommending a price above the $2,000. 742 Washington Avenue. If you look at the value of land on the adjoining parcel, which has the easement over that land, that $25,000 for the quarter acre is consistent with the value of that land. So I'm comfortable with that sale price, but even though I am comfortable, and even though nobody's expressed any interest in that parcel, so even subsequent to this, I did get the proposed buyer to agree to a legal notice in the paper, so at least we could check that box. And if we get no offers, then you know, we can consummate the sale.
So just for clarification, the Wilson Avenue property is, your request is at least how much?
Well, I was looking for 3,500. I would say 3 parcels, $1,000 a parcel at a minimum. So that would be $3,000.
And these are wetlands. They're wetlands and not buildable, correct?
Half of the land is wetlands, correct. The city, even at 2,000, the city, I would agree, the city would still be better off with the sale. The city has no use for those parcels.
Does anybody have any discussion? Councilman Donovan?
I totally agree with the 3,000. I mean, we came out with the 3,500 for 3 pieces of property. You know, just like anything else, she's gonna say I only got 2,000 because she really wants to put a pool. And again, yes, it's good to get rid of the property, but I don't want to give it away. You know, every time somebody comes in, they just lowball. So discussing with Lee, I think the $1,000 per parcel is more than adequate. I think 3,000 should be our limit. I don't believe we should go lower. How bad does she want the pool? I mean, if she can come up with 2,000, I'm sure she could scrape up another 1,000. You know, it's more of a, not that I'm saying call her bluff, but we just can't be giving away property for really nothing. I know we don't want to maintain it anymore. We want it off our books, but at the same time, we just basically don't want to give away that type of property where something could be done with that. I suggest 3,000 myself, but it's up to the rest of the council what they feel. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Right now, the motion that came from the committee does not speak to that. So if we were going to take the Corp Council's advice, then someone would need to amend the motion accordingly if someone chooses to do so. Lee, what is the time urgency to this?
I mean, the Wilson Ave property owner has been waiting since January, arguably, so she's anxious. I get communications from her frequently. The Washington Ave individual only recently inquired, but obviously you're getting more money on the Washington Avenue property, so the sooner you get it, I guess, the better. And my guess is that property owner is going to make that piece of property productive. So, the sooner you get it in their hands, the better tax-wise and development-wise. The Wilson Ave property, it is possible if we consummate the sale quick enough, depending on the pool they wanted, there might be an advantage to get the pool in place now, or they could wait till the spring. So I don't know that there's necessarily an urgency, either one, to do today. But I'm trying to keep things moving. So I felt the need, since these seem fairly simple, to get them on the council agenda.
What's the council's pleasure? Does anybody else have any other discussion? Councilwoman O'Connor?
Can we break the two issues up so that the one on Washington Avenue, the ads can be put in the paper and we could, because the $25,000 is a firm price, and then wait till maybe the next meeting to do the one till she firms up her, the price, so that we know what we're getting?
Councilman Conlon. You could unmute you, Councilman Conlon. Hang on. Go ahead. Try now.
Okay. I just wanted to back up Gary's position and say that I don't really understand how a person can have money to build a pool and not have money to buy the property. I think I tend to go along with Gary's position on that property.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman Conlon. Councilwoman O'Connor, I didn't mean to. My follow-up would be that if you want to make a motion to separate, you certainly could do that. And it would come under discussion. So we're still under discussion. Does anybody else have any discussion? Councilman, I don't know if Councilman Massaro, I don't know, and then Councilman Donovan, if you have your hand up. Councilman Massaro first.
The lady wants the property. You say $1,000 a parcel. If she really wants it, I mean, are we going to lose it for $3,000? I mean, could we come halfway, maybe $2,500? I mean, can we give that margin, 3,000 to 20? Does not go lower than 2,500? Just a question.
You could amend the motion any way you feel appropriate, and then we'll have discussion on that amendment.
All right, let's see what everybody else has to say, and then I'll come back.
All right, we'll go to Councilman Donovan and then Councilwoman O'Connor.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing that kind of Pete was. We don't want to lose this property, right? Over you're talking about $500. So if we can make a motion afterwards, I know Colleen wanted to make her motion first to separate it. So maybe we should do that first and then go back to the Wilson Avenue.
You all set?
Yeah.
Councilwoman O'Connor.
Okay, I would like to make a motion to separate the two so that we can vote on them separately. Did I say that right?
Yes, and would you like to include a minimum as part of that motion for each one?
Well, I think the 25,000 for the Washington Avenue property, and he agrees to put the ads in, is proper. For the Wilson property, I'd like to have more discussion. Like Gary and Pete both said, I don't want to lose it for $500, but I don't want to give the city away for nothing either, because if we do it for one person, then everyone's going to come before us looking to get a lower price.
Okay, so there's a motion to separate on the floor made by Councilwoman O'Connor to separate 742 Washington Avenue from the Wilson Avenue properties. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Councilman Cohen, Bruno, Donovan, Conlon. Is there any discussion on the motion to separate? Okay, seeing none, let's vote on this motion to separate. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so now we've separated. So let's take first communication would be 742 Washington Avenue. Would anyone like to make a motion regarding 742 Washington Avenue? Councilman Donovan?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the sale of the property on 742 Washington Avenue for the amount of $25,000.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councilman Bruno and Finelli and O'Connor. Is there any discussion on that motion? Councilman Massaro.
Now, it's my understanding it's got to go in the paper though, right? First? Before we can sell it to the people that want it.
Yes.
But it's got to be 25 or more.
So that's a different motion then. So right now you're voting on a motion that says $25,000. You want to amend it? You could amend it. We could dig that. We could keep drilling down here.
No, what I'm saying, not amended. I mean, what if somebody comes along and offers more money than the other guy? We could sell it for more money, right? What I'm saying, our motion does not make the person that is interested in now that he's got a lock on it.
So my recommendation would be to amend that motion and say $25,000 or more, and that the ad needs to go in the paper.
Okay. Colleen, you want to change it?
No, that's fine. You could amend the motion right now. We don't need to change it. If you make that motion, you could make an amendment to the motion.
Amend Colleen's motion that we sell it for 25,000 or more, and it goes into the paper.
Yeah, I think that was Councilman Donovan's original motion.
I'm sorry, Councilman Donovan.
So the amendment to the original motion is 25,000 or more with an ad. Is there a second? Second, Councilwoman O'Connor, Ms. Bruno, Donovan. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? And that motion passes. The second separated motion is Wilson Avenue. Is there a motion on the Wilson Avenue communication? Councilman Bruno.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to make a motion just to leave that at $3,000 and not move off of that. I mean, we're worried about losing it. If they're gonna be able to put in a pool, I mean, we're worried about losing for $500. I would like to make a motion to leave it at $3,000. If they want it, great. Let them come back at us. If not, then leave it status quo and we just sit on it for now.
So Councilman Bruno's made a motion for Wilson Avenue Properties 100, 122A, 124 Wilson Avenue for at least $3,000. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Councilman Hosky, Councilman Massaro. Is there any discussion?
Here we go.
Discussion, Councilman Donovan.
I guess it would be another amendment. Here we go with that, right? Again, I like the 3,000. I wouldn't want to go any lower than 2,500. Just don't want to lose, you know. But listen, if everybody feels the 3,000, I'm good with that. So yeah, all right. Let's just stay with the 3,000 because it's still under. It's assessed for like 7,500, so you're still halfway under. So let's stay with the 3,000.
Is there any other discussion? So the motion on the floor is the approval of the city to sell 122A, 100, and 124 Wilson Avenue for at least $3,000. Seeing no other discussion, I will call the vote. All in favor? Is there any opposed? Any abstentions? And that motion carries. You're all set, Councilman Donovan?
Yep, sorry, I was on mute. Yep, that concludes the Public Lands Committee.
Thank you, Councilman Donovan. Next committee is the Legislative Matters Committee, Councilman Galignano.
Can you hear me, Council Chairman?
Loud and clear.
What's that?
Yes.
Communication C, to the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven, your Committee on Legislative Matters, to whom was referred the matter of an ordinance with amendments to the Code of the City of West Haven, Chapter 89, Dogs. Reports that the committee met on the 24th day of August 2020 to consider said matter. It is the majority opinion of the committee that the following motions be presented. First reading. Excuse me. Proposed amendments, City Code of City of West Haven Dogs, Chapter 89 Dogs. Chapter 89-4 Dogs at Large. No person owning or having custody of a dog shall permit such dog to roam at large to the injury or annoyance of others, annoyance specifically including the following of the city's sidewalks, streets, footpaths, or beaches. If the dog does foul the area, the owner shall be responsible for cleaning it up. Nor shall such dog be permitted at large upon the streets and other public ways and playgrounds of city without the owner having control of such dog either by leash, cord, or chain, not to be extended beyond 6 feet in length. Such action is deemed to be a nuisance and a danger to the public health and safety. New section 89-10 Dog Parks. Nothing in this chapter shall exclude the ability of dog owners to use the designated dog parks in the city of West Haven and while in designated areas, remove any restraints from their dogs, incurring all liability for such dogs' actions. Such areas in the city will be designated and posted as dog parks and shall also have written set of rules clearly posted at the entrances. Set public hearing date, September 14th, 6:55 p.m.
Councilman Galignano's brought forward communication C from Councilwoman Finelli in regards to amendments to the Code of the City of West Haven, Chapter 89, Dogs. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Massaro. Is there any discussion? Councilman Cohen.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to amend the motion, make a motion to amend the motion on 89-4 dogs at large from extend beyond 6 feet in length to something that is factual and safer to extend beyond 10 feet in length.
There's an amendment on the floor by Councilman Cohen to modify the verbiage in the ordinance to change the not to be extended beyond 6 feet in length to 10 feet in length. Is there a second? Councilwoman O'Connor. Is there any discussion? Councilman Massaro, then Councilwoman Finelli.
I listened earlier of the arguments and the discussion about this. 6 feet, 12 feet, 10 feet doesn't make any difference. If a person has an animal, a dog or any kind of canine, and that leash is longer, far away from him, you don't know if that dog is trained or not. You have no idea. If the leash is 6 feet, you got more control of the dog. And listen, not everybody sends their dog to obedience school. I know that for a fact. I've known that because I've seen kids get attacked by dogs. People had their leashes and them long retractable leashes. So personally, I think a 6-foot leash is good enough so a owner can have more control of its animal, and especially if it's the ones that are on the high risk that are listed, that we all know that are some out here that should be on a shorter leash. That's my only fear about that, because I have seen in my job young kids get bitten by dogs very badly, and the leashes were longer than 6 feet, and they were longer than 4 feet. And that's my only concern about that whole thing. So I'm going to stick with the 6 feet. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Councilman Massaro. Councilwoman Finelli.
Yes, I was just wanted to state, and everything that I looked up that gives recommendations for the safest leash length, from the American Kennel Club to different humane societies to different leash manufacturers, everything says for training dogs, for walking dogs, 4 to 6 feet is the safest. So I'm not sure. It seems like if we're going to amend this to 10 feet to 12 feet, that's a little bit of an arbitrary number. And I have not, in my research, seen anything that has given either of those numbers as either a standard length or a safe length, either for walking or for training. So I agree with Councilman Massaro that I think 6 feet is the safest, and I would like to keep it at 6 feet. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilwoman Finelli. We'll go to Councilman Donovan and then Councilman Cohen.
You would think that this wouldn't be a big issue, right? Personally, I don't think we should put a number on it. It's bad enough that the government and the legislative is telling people basically what to do every other day. Who's going to patrol that 6 foot? Who's going to patrol it if it's 8 foot or 10 foot or 12 foot? Personally, I think just leave it the way it was. With it, the dog has to be leashed or on a cord or chained. It is always and will always be the responsibility of the dog owner. And I've had many dogs. I've had ones that were trained. I've had ones that weren't trained. I've seen dogs that are vicious and not vicious. You can have a 6 foot length on a large dog, and I've seen attacks. But I've also seen them on 6 foot and no attacks, and they're the friendliest dogs. Again, my opinion of it is that we just leave it as is. We don't even add in anything. I think you're going to have more issues with people complaining that we went to a 6 foot. I think we just leave it as is. And again, that's just my opinion on that. That's all I have for this at this point.
Thank you, Councilman Donovan. Councilman Cohen.
Yes, I do agree with Councilman Donovan because, it's not just obedience training. When they say standard leash of 6 feet, that's a standard manufactured length. Those are the common lengths. It's not necessarily the preferred length based on size of dog, based on size and dexterity of owner, based on written codes that do show 10 feet in other towns. And I think it's an arbitrary figure. I think it's an annoyance. It's a nuisance figure. Therefore, if Councilwoman, if Councilwoman O'Connor will be agreeable, I am going to withdraw this amendment and make a new amendment to not include any length. So first, I guess, Mr. Chairman, I need to first withdraw this motion to make a new motion.
So we're still under discussion for your amendment, Councilman Cohen. So you are able to withdraw your amendment if you so choose. But let's finish discussion on it first. Councilwoman Finelli, do you have something?
I just wanted to add, there's no need to make that amendment because the current ordinance says they have to be leashed, but it doesn't specify a length. So you would just have to not say anything about it, and that would support that stance then.
Right. So Councilman Cohen, you want your amendment removed. So Councilwoman O'Connor, would you remove your second?
Yes, I will remove my second.
Councilman Cohen, you'll remove your motion for amendment?
Yes, I will.
So we're back to the original motion, communication as read, and we're still under discussion for that original communication that came out of committee that says not to be extended beyond 6 feet in length. So we're still under discussion. Is there any further discussion? Councilwoman O'Connor.
I just wanted to say that if the whole matter is concerning fouling flower beds and sidewalks and everything, I don't really think leash size matters. It's up to the owner. You can have your dog on a 4-foot leash or a 6-foot leash. If the dog is fouling a flower bed, that is your fault if the dog's on the leash. The responsibility falls within the owner because you can pull the dog away. I'm sorry, but I think this is human responsibility here. It doesn't matter. If you don't like the person, you're going to put your dog in the flower bed on purpose. So the number, I think, is arbitrary, and it is very hard to get someone to look at this. Are we going to have someone down there measuring leashes? That's just not practical. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Councilwoman O'Connor. Councilman Conlon.
I'd only like to request a roll call vote on this. You hear me? Oh, no, I don't hear you.
You're muted.
Ron, you're muted.
I got you. So your request is a roll call vote, but you're not requesting to move the question so we could continue to have discussion? Councilman Donovan.
Can I make a motion to separate these two votes? I'd like to, because you have 89-4, and then you also are talking about 89-10. I'd like to separate the two, vote on one and then vote on the other. We can vote and discuss on one and then vote and discuss on the other. Is that?
You're all making me work tonight.
Yep. We're all earning our money, right?
You have that ability, Councilman Donovan, so you could make that motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we vote separately on these two matters. I'd like to separate 89-4, and I'd like to also separate 89-10. I'd like to vote on these individually.
Is there a second? Councilman Cohen and O'Connor. I don't see the clerk here, is she?
I'm here.
Okay, I don't see you, but all right, Stacy, let's do the motion on the floor, and that's been seconded, is to separate the the two sections of the communication, 89-4 is what would be one communication, and 8910 would be another communication. And would you conduct a roll call vote for that motion to separate, please? So a vote in favor would be to separate, or against would be not to separate.
Okay, hang on just a second. Let me just write that down. Okay. Councilman Donovan?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Connor?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hoskin?
No.
Councilman Conlon? Muted.
I vote no on the amendment.
Councilwoman Johnston?
No.
Councilman Galignano?
No.
Councilwoman Hamilton?
No.
Councilman Massaro?
No.
Councilwoman McGee?
No.
Councilwoman Finelli?
No.
Councilman Bruno?
No.
Councilman Cohen? Muted. You're muted, hon.
Yes.
Thank you. And Chairman Quagliani?
No.
Okay, we have 4 yes and 8 no.
4 yes, 8 no. Motion fails. So we're still under discussion for the original communication. Is there further discussion on the original communication? Seeing none, I think Councilman Conlon requested a roll call vote. So roll call vote on the original communication.
Councilman Donovan?
Abstain.
Councilwoman O'Connor?
No.
Councilwoman Hosky?
Yes.
Councilman Conlon?
I'm sorry. Yes.
Yes? Thank you. Councilwoman Johnston?
Yes.
Councilman Galignano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilman Massaro?
Yes.
Councilwoman McGee?
Yes.
Councilwoman Finelli?
Yes.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Cohen?
No.
And Chairman Quagliani?
Yes.
Okay, we have 2 noes, 1 abstention, and 9 yes.
9 yes, 1 abstention. Motion carries. Councilman Galignano, you got one more.
Sure do, Chairman. To the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven, your Committee on Legislative Matters, to whom was referred the matter of an ordinance amending Chapter 81 Building Department fees. Reports that the committee met on the 24th day of August 2020 to consider said matter. It is the unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Second reading. The proposed edit to the city ordinance contained in Chapter 81 Building Department will achieve the following. 1. Remove outdated, obsolete language. 2. address an internet security fault caused by outdated software. 3, provide enhanced remote customer access in response to social distancing requirements. 4, relieve the paper file storage burden and cost. 5, increase building permit fees in part to fund the required IT upgrade and digital storage demands. 6, provide for a penalty and citation appeals mechanism for persons working without the benefit of permits and inspections. 7, memorialize existing business practices not covered in the previous ordinance. 8, enhance compliance with the National Flood Insurance Program, providing outreach and education opportunities to promote flood insurance in areas vulnerable to disaster. 9, increase the fee revenue to the general fund to support the city's overall operational overhead related to staff increases in the building department.
Councilman Galignano's brought forward communication D from the 7/27/2020 agenda from Douglas Coulter in regards to an ordinance amending Chapter 81 Building Department Fees. Is there a second? Councilman Cohen, Councilman Massaro, Councilwoman Hosky. Is there any discussion? Councilman Massaro?
I'm not going to belabor this too long, but Doug approached me way back in February about this, how he wanted to increase fees to upgrade their software back in February. He came up with a plan before that, and the plan fell through, and I got to give him a lot of credit because he stuck to it, and he came up with another plan, and we all agreed to it so far, and I give him a lot of credit for trying hard. And also, Doug, while you're here, I probably won't see you because City Hall is closed most of the time, but I just want to tell you, thank you very much for helping the fire department getting their grant too also.
Thank you, Councilman Massaro. I think Councilman Cohen want to have a discussion.
I'm unmuted, right? Okay. Again, I just wanted to really sincerely, Doug, thank you so much for your help and assistance and all the hard work you and your department have done. I truly appreciate it. And I want you to know that the remarks I made at last month's meeting, as well as my remarks tonight, were in no way directed towards you or your department. You do a spectacular job, and thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Cohen. Is there any other discussion? Mayor, I don't see Frank on the call any longer, so maybe you could just comment. I know that but I want to make sure that, so the building fees go into the general fund. However, we're going to utilize a portion of these fees to accomplish the necessary software updates and things that the building department needs to more effectively provide services to the community, correct?
Correct. That is definitely the intent of it. I'm sure Frank will have a way of doing this because we have talked about it. Doug had presented it to me as well. And I do think it's a great idea. And I too want to thank him. I mean, it was wonderful to be invited there by the fire departments today and to see the amount of money that our fire districts got, especially the Allentown Fire Department. It was really wonderful. And it was nice of Senator Blumenthal to take time out of his day to come and speak to all of us. So again, I concur. Doug's doing a wonderful job. And yes, that portion is supposed to go and be allocated separately. And that's what we want to do. So we do things correctly. I will double check with Frank again, because I'm always leery about that too. I hear it's going to be separated and then the next thing you know. So I will discuss with him what type of account it will be put in and how it will be protected from being swept at the end of the year with the usual closings of the, the fiscal year.
Thank you, Mayor. Is there any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Is there any opposed? Any abstentions? And that motion passes unanimously. Before we close.
Doug wants to speak, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, Doug wants to speak. Doug, you're
He has to come off mute.
muted, Doug.
Are we off mute?
Yep, you're off.
Okay. So I wrote the first draft in 2013, and I feel like I should be brought outside and smoke a very large cigar or something like that. It took a lot.
Muted.
Doug, you're unmuted. Go ahead.
Can you hear me now, Chairman?
Yes.
Okay. So I wrote the first draft in 2013, and it's made its way around the building several times, almost to council a couple of times. And I just want to thank Lee and the mayor for finally getting us across the finish line, and for Frank Saplinski's support as well. And this is huge. It's going to mean a very, very big improvement to this critical service. I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but well over 50% of our local economy is the construction industry, and this department supports that. So
Doug, you're muted.
I think we got the gist. So listen, thank you on behalf of the council for your stick-to-itness and seeing that this thing got brought forward, put on our agenda, and subsequently passed. So thank you for your hard work as well. Before we move on to personnel and civil service, just for the record, the communication C regarding the modification for Chapter 89 dogs was a first reading, and the public hearing will be set for September 14th at 6:55 p.m. You're all set, Councilman Gallinano?
That concludes the business of the legislative matters, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Galignano. Next up is Personnel and Civil Service Committee, Councilman Massaro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the Honorable Council of the City of West Haven, our Committee of Personnel and Civil Services, to whom to refer to the matter and appointment of Troy Tappan to the West Haven Allentown Fire Commission. Report of the committee met on the 24th day, August 2020, to consider the said matter. It was a unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Resolved, the appointment of Troy Tappan of 64 Josephine Avenue, West Haven, to the City of West Haven Fire Department, Allentown Fire Commission, effective immediately and to expire on June 30th, 2021, to fill the vacancy, be approved.
Councilman Massaro has brought forward communication A from Mayor Nancy R. Rossi in regards to the appointment of Troy Tappan to the West Haven Allentown Fire Commission. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Councilwoman McGee, Councilwoman Hamilton, Councilman Galignano. Is there any discussion? Mayor?
I think Mr. Tappan's going to be a great addition to the Allentown Fire Commission, and I look forward to swearing him in as long as we get a favorable vote tonight. So I thank you all for consideration for him.
Mayor, is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Are there any opposed? Any abstentions? And that motion passes unanimously. You're all set, Councilman Massaro?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, that ends and civil service.
Thank you, Councilman Massaro. Next up is Charter Revision Committee, Councilwoman Hamilton.
To the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven, your Committee on Charter Revision, to whom was referred the matter of an ordinance amending Chapter 6 Veterans Advisory Committee, reports that the committee met on the 24th day of August 2020 to consider said matter. It was the unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Second reading approval. Chapter 6, Local Veterans Advisory Committee. 6-2, composition, election terms, alternate officers, and compensation. The Local Veterans Advisory Committee shall be comprised of 5 regular members and 2 alternate members. Each member shall either reside in West Haven or have his or her regular place of business or employment in the city. The members shall be elected by the electors of the City of West Haven. A, regular members of the Veterans Local Advisory Committee, first elected, shall be designated to serve for 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 years, respectively. I know I'm not saying it. And therefore shall be elected annually to serve for 5 years. Any vacancy shall be filed in the same manner as the original election. B, alternate members of the committee first shall be designated to serve for 1 and 2 years, and therefore shall be elected to serve for 5 years. Said alternate members shall serve on the committee in the absence of regular members, and when doing so, shall act with the full power and authority of a regular member. Any vacancy shall be filled in the same manner as the original election. C, said committee shall select from its member a chairman and a secretary, who shall serve for 1 year. D, all members of said committee shall serve without compensation. The City Council further stipulates that this ordinance change shall not take effect until successful passage of the charter revision document slated for November 3rd, 2020's ballot.
Councilwoman has brought forward Communication J from Corporation Council in regards to an ordinance amending Chapter 6 Veterans Advisory Committee. Is there a second? Councilwoman Johnston, Councilman Massaro, Councilman Bruno. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor? Are there any opposed? Any abstentions? And the motion passes unanimously.
That concludes your Committee on Charter Revision.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hamilton. Next committee is the Tax Deferral Committee, Councilman Massaro.
Mr. Chairman, it is unanimously that this tax deferral thing as of 7/27/20 has been denied. That's all for tax deferral.
Well, I don't think you have the power to do that, Councilman Massaro.
Oh, really?
I think you have to form that to the council, make the motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Make the council, the committee made it unanimously to deny this tax deferral.
Okay, Councilwoman Massaro has brought forward Communication G from the 7/27/20 agenda from taxpayer Adam Coles in regards to a request for amendment of interest on taxes. The motion in front of the council is a motion to deny. Is there a second? Second, Councilman Conlon. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor? Are there any opposed? Are there any abstentions? And this motion passes unanimously.
Tax deferral is ended.
Thank you, Councilman Massaro. Okay, ordinance, adoption of ordinances previously presented. There are none. Are there any council liaison reports? Councilwoman O'Connor.
It seems that the library is going really good. They made a sort of a deal with Neil. If anyone in the Allentown area needs something from the library, you're to call the main branch and tell them what you need. They are going to grab it. And then if I remember correctly, it's Tuesdays and Thursdays or Wednesday and Thursday afternoons. They will be in the parking lot of Kerrigan to give you the books. And it seems like everyone's really excited about that. That's it.
Thank you, Councilwoman O'Connor. Are there any other liaison reports? Seeing none. New business. Does anybody have any new business? Councilwoman McGee.
Thank you, Chairman. Cities across the nation and right here in Connecticut are declaring racism a public health crisis. That it is truly. And after much research and looking into what other towns are doing, our neighboring communities, I would like the council to consider placing the resolution on the next meeting's agenda so that we can do the same here in West Haven. I also urge you to research and read and do as much as you can to understand why this is important. On yesterday, Jake Blake was shot in the back 7 times by a police officer in Wisconsin in front of his children. Gratefully, he lived, he survived, he's fighting for his life currently right now in stable condition. So this is something that is timely and it's relevant to right now. And also too, I would just like to bring up, there are a few constituents that have contacted me about their desire to see a new playground or a revitalized playground on Glade Street. I understand some of the things in which we might have to go about to make sure that that happens, but I just wanted to share with my counterparts how important that is to them and how important it is for them to feel valuable. So whatever it is that we need to do, whatever we need to implement or see about this issue, let's do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman McGee. Councilwoman Hosky.
So I just know that a few months ago, Chairman, when I think Mark Payne came before us, I had mentioned, isn't this the same playground that the Veterans Hospital took part of it, and the neighborhood was then promised that the remaining parcel would be revigorated and received new items. I know all of that happened well before my time, but isn't that same playground? I mean, I don't know if it was the city that was supposed to buy new structures or if it was the Veterans Hospital that was supposed to donate, but I know I mentioned this probably about 4 months ago. Do we know? Does anybody know?
Mr. Chairman.
Mitch, could you?
Because it's disappointing to think, I'm sorry, Mitch, it is seriously disappointing to think that this whole time somebody ignored their job. Somebody should have done what they promised to do. And the residents of Glade Street should not have to sacrifice because somebody didn't follow through.
Councilman Galignano.
So
just, I was on the council when we sold that or gave that property to the VA. So we gave them half of that soccer field. I don't remember anything being said that they were going to do anything for that park. And I thought, and I could be wrong on this, the basketball court is the city's, and the actual park is part of HUD. I could be wrong on that because that is my district, and I think Councilwoman McGee had reached out to me probably about a month ago about that, and I didn't check on it, but I do believe that the basketball court is ours and the park is actually part of HUD.
All right, I think it'd be appropriate maybe to, Stacy, you could pen a letter to Corp Council and ask them to research that action, and if in fact who the park belongs to, and if it is bifurcated, who owns what piece, so we could go down that road for revitalization. Is there any other new business? Councilman Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I actually just have a couple of questions, just a couple of comments. First of all, as you can tell, I'm a passionate person, but I'm blessed to be working with all of you, and I thank you for your collaboration tonight and every night that we meet. I want you to know that. That's number one. We all have our opinions, and some of us are more direct than others. With that said, I do have a couple of follow-up items. It's been about, Mr. Chairman, I believe it's been about 6 weeks. Has anyone, have we received, if I missed it, I apologize. Did we get any report from Mr. Masori, from Fred Masori? We're supposed to get an update report, I believe, on the bulleted points that was presented. Did we get that, or can we ask for it again?
Yes, I'm not aware that we received it. So Stacy, if you could request that for our next meeting.
Sorry. That was one thing, Mr. Chair. The other thing is just, I know I've spoken to a couple of the fellow council people here, and I know the chairman knows about this, but I've started to do some research that I'm going to be organizing and reviewing, regarding non-resident parking fees. Not so much about, buying kiosks, our current fees, and I've been benchmarking it for other local cities regarding, should it be how we treat senior citizens, how we treat military, a number of different factors, what the weekday pass is, what a season pass is, what our current protocol is, because it's my personal goal, just my personal goal, to work with a few of you to bring before the council by the end of the year to implement, I'll call them revised parking fees for non-residents, whatever that may be. Because the research that I've done so far and the conversation that I've had is, it seems like we might be able to draw some more revenue from that, but also to better engage those people, those non-residents here. So I just want to make you aware of it, and especially people, some of the West Shore folks and Bill Conley, people that are living by the shore, especially I want to touch base with you as well, Crystal, and I know Robert and Chairman, et cetera. So there'll be more on that later. Two other quick things, Mr. Chair, if I may, or would you like to go to somebody else?
No, go right ahead.
Okay. I just want to alert everyone, and the chair knows about this too. Pretty much all of the Public Works Committee, our Public Works Committee, once we get to meet back together in person, not immediately, but once we're back to person, I will be calling a separate Wednesday evening meeting of the Public Works Committee. And I've alerted and requested that Joe Soto, our Emergency Management Director, I've talked to him, I've talked to Tom McCarthy, talked to some of the council members. And it's really just not to do a post-mortem on our response to the recent storm, but just to, basically what worked, what didn't work, where can we improve, where were some gaps, and where were some opportunities. So the next time this thing comes around, that all of us here in the council, especially when it comes budget season, that we think about where were we deficient, where are we allocating funds? Should it be human resource or equipment or whatever, so that, we don't want to just, this is done, thank God it's over, but also take a look at how we can improve things. And so I'll be having that meeting. probably, I'm going to say in the fall, because I understand we're expecting another big storm the end of this month. So we're going to see what happens there. So that's just a heads up for everybody. I appreciate that. And the last question I had for the mayor, but I don't know if she's on the call. Don't see the mayor. Okay, well then I will hold off on that question. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman Cohen. Is there any, Councilwoman Hosky?
So I was wondering if we could follow up or have Stacy follow up with us, because I sent a request trying to find out if the study that we approved for the IT had gone out, or if there was an update on when it would be going out. But unfortunately, nobody has gotten back to me. I find that annoying. I also want to find out, as far as the police department, they did not ever purchase the 5 handheld machines for the tickets when we approved the purchase back in the beginning of March for a couple of different reasons. I'm just wondering if we can get an actual update of when that's going to be happening, or what their plan is for that to happen. We gave them money and they weren't able to use it. So I just think that, the council, all of us need to know what's going on and when they might be doing that. So those are my 2 things. I'd like an answer to both.
You got those?
Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hosky. Is there any other new business? Councilman Massaro?
Who do we talk to, or who do we ask? People that are moving into West Haven, and there's a lot of them moving from New Jersey, New York. They've been here maybe for 6 months to a year, and their cars are still registered in New York. Who enforces that?
I believe it's the police department.
Okay. I already got my answer from them.
Is there something that you would like us to request there, Councilman?
No, I thought there was somebody else that enforces that, but I asked the PD about it, and they gave me an answer already about it. Not enough people.
I believe it's a motor vehicle law, state statute. So, and I believe that the enforcement could be done by the local jurisdiction's law enforcement agency.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Councilman, squares keep moving here. Councilman Donovan.
Recently I did a ride along with the West Haven PD. I honestly would suggest all council members to do that. Maybe not so much the chairman. I think he spent enough time riding along on his own there, but I think it's something that would be really good for everybody to see what goes on. Spend as much time as you want. When you spend a whole shift, spend 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever you like. Just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you, Councilman Donovan. Is there any other new business? Seeing no hands raised, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Have a good rest of the evening.
Thank you. Good night, all.
Leave the chairman.